Today I'm going to give you the top 8 reasons why you should still buy the M1 MacBook Air in 2022. Number 1, price. The very first reason to buy this laptop is the price. I know I start a lot of my videos talking about money, but for me, that's really the only place that you can start because it's the monetary value of a machine, a phone, a tablet, a laptop. That's what determines if you can even get one in the first place. There are a ton of places that you can buy the M1 MacBook Air, and there are a ton of deals always going on. Combine these together, and I would almost never tell you to buy straight brand new from Apple. You can get these refurbished from them for $849 with all the benefits of buying new, or you can get them brand new on Amazon for $949 new or $835 renewed. That's not cheap, but that's a fantastic value, especially when you look at the rest of the laptop market and the rest of what we're going to talk about today. The second reason is availability. We just talked about how you have a ton of options when looking to buy one of these MacBooks, and let's be honest, that's pretty rare anymore. Where the standard today is needing to pre-order a product the instant it's released, or you are going to have to wait months, and that's remarkable here. Look at this. Let's check this out right here. We've got the MacBook Air set up right now as our only computer for our office. So we're going to look at the MacBook Pro 14. If you want to buy almost any model of this from Apple, check this out because you've got a long wait ahead of you. And that laptop came out 6 months ago. If you try to even buy the base model today, it says I won't get my hands on one until June. And it's right, I'm recording this on April 28th. Yes, the MacBook Pro 14 is incredible, and yes, if you need some of those features, waiting around makes a lot of sense, but if you need a general purpose computer and something today, the MacBook Air is such a fantastic buy. Even in the Windows world, it's not easy to get a hold of computers. There are the same months-long waits to get anything that's not some random laptop that's probably 2 to 3 years old just hanging out at Best Buy. We live in a very constrained tech environment right now, and the ease of being able to not only buy a MacBook Air, but having a ton of options to get the best price or features you are looking for, that's such a big plus when you combine it with the rest of the reasons we'll talk about in this video. Number 3, size. I don't think it gets brought up enough how lovely it is to use a laptop of this size. The MacBook Air has a 13-inch diagonal liquid retina display, and this is basically the perfect size for working outside, working at your home, your work, your school, your dorm, your coffee shop. It's fantastic. The screen is just big enough that you don't really need to scale stuff up or squint too hard to read things on it, and yes, I'm almost 40, and I find reading small text gets a little harder each year, but it's also not too big to make the whole laptop a pain in the butt to travel with, cough. Any laptop bigger than 15 inches, cough, cough. But the MacBook Air fits perfectly into backpacks. It weighs almost nothing, and despite all of that, it's a wonder to work with because they nailed down how big they could make it without making it too small. That made way more sense writing that down than it did saying it back. Number 4, the power. You might think because of the previous stuff that we've talked about, when it comes to being a reasonably low price, pretty darn small, easy to get a hold of laptop, there are probably some huge power sacrifices to make. But gentle viewer, what if I told you that all of those previous reasons exist and you still get single core performance that rivals that of the highest M1 Max processor? Well, even if you are skeptical, that's exactly what happens. The 8-core CPU, 7-core GPU, M1 standard processor inside of the base model MacBook Air is probably my favorite processor of all time. Is it weird to have favorite processors? I don't think so. The M1 MacBook Air has real power. Not, hey, it turns on, but it chugs doing everything because we could only thermally afford to put a teeny dual-core chip in here. It has power. It's got playing video games power. It's got running a YouTube channel power. I don't mean to evangelize this laptop too much, even though I've made 30 videos doing just that thing. I've spent whole weeks using this as my only laptop for regular day stuff, and let's be honest with each other, regular day stuff doesn't even really need a computer at this point. I've used this as my only computer for the YouTube channel. This has power for creators, students, everyone, unless you specifically need more multi-core performance or you need more active memory. Because, okay, yes, 16 gigabytes of unified memory, that limit is pretty rough. But it's only pretty rough for certain folks. Even on my base model, I've only run into memory problems when actively pushing this laptop to find them. I'm not saying that you wouldn't, But I haven't, and like I said, I've run this whole YouTube video creation enterprise from this computer. 5, battery life. To this day, I'm blown away by the battery life of this computer. No, it's not the computer with the longest longevity in the MacBook lineup. That would go to the M1 MacBook Pro 16, but it's real close, and it gets that battery life without needing a battery that's almost the size of the whole MacBook Air. This computer gets 18 hours of life, and that's really about as much as you could ever hope for. Essentially, you only need to charge this a couple of times per week if you're just looking at straight up battery life numbers, because even for conservative estimates, you could go, and I have gone, 2 to 3 work days on a single charge. But that's not really realistic, because chances are over those 2 to 3 days you'll be plugged in at a school, or you'll be plugged in at home or the office. So practically speaking, what you get out of this is you just never have to think about battery life. And that's what I think is the real win here. Functionally, I don't think there's a practical difference between 18 and let's say 48 hours of battery life, because each of those intervals is really just a comfortable enough stretch to start plugging it in again. I love it. Seriously, you get all of that great power we talked about in the previous section, but you can also get it wherever you are for almost any length of time because of how macOS operates and because of how great the battery life is. You get the full power of the system wherever you go. And it's so great. It's like the compounding interest of computer technology, and that each feature we read feeds back into another feature, and it's just getting better and better and better. Number 6, physical construction. We talked about the size earlier, but something I want to quickly mention is that just because this is the quote-unquote cheapest laptop in the Apple system, that doesn't mean it's made cheaply or out of poor quality components. They used the previous MacBook Air iteration's chassis for this computer, so they already had the parts and already had everything built. They didn't need to design something new, and that was able to save them a lot of time and a lot of money. This has all the same high quality feel from the rest of the Apple's lineup. From the aluminum shell to the Magic Keyboard, the speakers, the ports, everything here is very high quality, it's very durable, and I have no doubts that this computer will outlast my desire to use it. But that would probably only happen when the next version comes out. I have to say that this is one of the highest quality devices that you are going to get. Plus, I love how light it is. 7 ports. Now this next reason buy is kind of like a half number, but these reasons and numbers are arbitrary anyway, so reason number 7, you still get 2 very nice Thunderbolt 3 ports built right into the computer, and you also get a headphone jack. Remember when headphone jacks were all the rage to complain about for phones? Well, in laptop world, other brands are starting to remove those, so maybe we're going to see that fight and that fire come to the laptop arena here soon. But while you are limited for the amount of external displays you can use with the MacBook Air, these ports are darn near as fast as the latest Thunderbolt 4 offerings, and you'll still be able to export out to a single 6K display, which is all I personally use. I like the charging speeds, I like the transfer speeds, I like the overall dockable capabilities of these ports, and it would have been really easy for Apple to try and save some money here by using a lesser USB-C connection like they did on the iPad Airs, but they didn't, and you get the full capability at the much lower price point. Number 8, no noise. Of all the reasons we've given so far, this might be my absolute favorite. This laptop makes absolutely no noise because it has no fan built into it at all. Listen, I don't hear, well, you probably can't hear it anyway because the microphone here. This is just awesome. It does make decent noise out of the speaker. There's just like no functionality noise that comes out of the computer. Since the M1 chipset hit the streets, my whole expectation of what a computer should be has changed. Fan noise, honestly, it drives me up the wall anymore because of how used to a quiet office I've gotten. Well, as quiet as it can be with my home's heater, literally 7 feet from my desk. I'm pointing right over, that's our house's heater right there. While all the new MacBooks and other assorted Apple computers have done really well keeping those decibels in the realm of reasonable, the easiest way to make sure your workspace is quiet is to just not have a fan. You might be worried about thermal performance on a computer that doesn't actively blow air around the hot bits, and much like memory stress, I've only run into thermal problems when I'm actively trying to push the computer to make them happen. Even in long sessions of playing games, and I only really play WoW Classic, even during hours-long sessions of that, yes, the computer gets warm and hot to the touch, but I've never taken a performance hit because of it. Real talk, can you see me? I just can't take fan noise anymore. Hey, we got one more bonus 9th reason for you. Let's talk versatility. You add all of the things that we've talked about thus far together, and they all add to one thing. The M1 MacBook Air is the most versatile computer that I've ever owned. It seamlessly works as both a travel computer, but also as a home desk computer by plugging it into a docking station or some dongle setup. And you know what? You don't even really need that. All you need is a Thunderbolt to HDMI or DisplayPort cable, or just a Thunderbolt to Thunderbolt cable if you have the studio display. You get a Bluetooth mouse and a keyboard, and you are set with one cable. The power seriously gives you everything you need up to certain memory intensive tasks, and even some intensive tasks are no big deal if you don't mind running on swap memory. And if you are trying to buy like a whole setup, with the money you save buying this lower end laptop, you can absolutely kit out an entire home office and still spend less than the cost of the base model MacBook Pro 14. I kid you not, if we were doing some kind of component tier list, a lot of the individual components of the MacBook Air would probably end up as a high B tier, definitely in the A tier. But when you combine them all together, this gets an S tier versatility ranking. And if you like this video and you are really considering the M1 MacBook Air, you can check out this video talking about all the best cheap accessories for this computer. You can click right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.